And if, Ms. Goodell, will you call the roll?
Mr. Ankuma?
Yes.
Ms. Gill? Mr. Lawrence? Mr. Reitinger?
Here.
And Mr. Webb?
Here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I can entertain a motion for adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ankuma. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And if someone would read us into close.
Go ahead.
Act, I move that the board convene a closed meeting for the following purpose: to discuss or consider the identified subject matter, personnel under section 2.23711, subsection A, subsection 1, in particular staff appointments, staff reappointments, staff reassignments, staff resignations, staff retirements, staff performance, staff change in position, childcare leave, medical leave, EPED assignments and advisory committee appointments and resignations, and legal matters under section 2.2-3711, section A, subsection 7, in particular, consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members pertaining to actual or probable litigation where such consultation or briefing would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body.
Thank you, Mr. Ankuma. Can I second? Thank you, Ms. Gill. Ms. Goodell?
Mr. Ankuma?
Aye.
Ms. Gill? Aye. Mr. Reitinger?
Aye.
Mr. Webb?
Aye.
So moved.
I think,
Favor?
aye.
And if someone would certify the closed meeting.
Mr. Chairman, whereas the Falls Church City Public School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.23711B of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law, now therefore be it resolved that the Falls Church City Public School Board hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirement by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies, and 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion covering the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
Ms. Goodell?
Mr. Ankuma?
Aye.
Mr. Castillo? Ms. Gill? Aye. Mr. Lawrence? Mr. Reitinger?
Yes.
And Mr. Webb?
Yes. We are at the point of public comment. In accordance with School Board Bylaw 2.30, the time for each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Additional written statements may be submitted to the clerk for dissemination to the board, to board members, and for the record and dissemination of requests. Do we have any?
We do not have any public comment.
We're gonna then move on to reports, and I will turn it over for 6.01 Food Service Annual Report. Dr. Nene.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, members of the board. Community, I'd like to invite up Richard King. Richard is our amazing food services director here in the City of Falls Church that I've gotten to know the last 8 weeks or so, who's prepared a very brief report for you in board docs. He's got a number of highlights. He's got some information about fiscal responsiveness and information, and some recommendations for the future. So I'm going to, with your approval, turn it over to Richard.
And we're happy to see you here, healthy and ready to go with us tonight.
100% healthy, right? You want to turn your mic on, Mr. Kane?
Like it's echoing already. All right, highlights of the year. As ladies and gentlemen, you know, the students I work with the hydroponic lettuce and fish won a Presidential Environmental Youth Award, and we'll be going down to the White House next month, August 27th and 28th, I believe. Also, to supplement my staff, when we were short, I used interns from Potomac Job Corps in DC, which were free to us, so I was mentoring and working with them in order to have extra bodies. I also used the intern from George Mason, who worked for me on Fridays for every couple of hours. And what we did for the environmental club, we grew 86.5 pounds of hydroponic lettuce last year, and I brought it back from them so that the club, instead of always doing fundraisers, it was more like a capstone project, so they learned how to sell it back to me, and that was a cost of $202.41. But I believe that the investment in the students and what they learn is much more important than the small dollar amount, because I have to buy lettuce anyway, so if we're growing it, why not teach them something else? This year, we lost lunch meals. They went down about 1,800 for lunch and 1,100 for breakfast. Part of that is due to the contractor that we use at Mount Daniel, which is a vendor that we use, Revolution Foods. The parents are not happy with that vendor, but due to pending construction, we have no choice but to use them. But construction is now going to start, and this will be the last year that we use them. The logistics quite involved, and we have to this year, this upcoming school year, serve lunch from 2 different places because the kids are actually be in an active construction zone. So that's going to be kind of difficult. But I think we can do it. My recommendations, we're going to need more staff for Mount Daniel, which I've said before because of the 2 different places and the logistics of this. And I'm looking to do a robotic garden for next year, so I'm going to put in for a super grant for that, so that during the summertime, I don't need students to do it. The robotics will do it itself. And then we're working out the logistics of selling the fish that we raise to a vendor in Falls Church. We just got to make sure there are licensing issues resolved, or if there is anything that I need to do. Other than that, I love working with the students. I love what we do. We did not lose any money this year. We do still in the black. And I think that's it. I love what I do, and I love working with the students. I love coming up with new stuff, and there'll be better food even next year. So, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Kane. Are there any questions from the board?
Not a question. I just wanted to say thank you for all the work that you do. I had a real opportunity in the last year or two sample the cuisine that you and your staff are capable of, and it's really quite amazing. I think it's unquestionably, in my experience, the best school food program I've ever seen. And so thank you very much.
Thank you. I believe so. We try to cook most of our food from scratch, as you know. And if I could make cereal, I would do that. But I would do that, but it's not enough time. So there wasn't anything. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much. Mr. Castillo?
Mr. Kane, could I just ask one more question of you? With respect to the I believe you said it was Revolution Foods, that's not super popular. Is there any remedial work that can be done to improve the experience with them at Mount Daniel in the next year? Any way to bridge some of those gaps?
We work with them very closely on improving the food. A lot of it is perception, and a lot of it is that they technically follow the letter of the law. For instance, the nutrition mandates are that you have to have a certain amount of greens, a certain amount of legumes, beans a week, a certain amount of grain. So they technically follow it. So what they do is, if you have black beans, for instance. They have black beans and then they have broccoli, but they put them together. So technically it's right because of the dark green and the black bean, but from a customer's point of view, you don't care about technicality. You want the food to be right. And it takes a lot of time and effort to sit there and make sure that you work it out the way with the law and where the customer will like it. So technically, well, customers don't care about technically because black beans make broccoli black when you put them together. So, and those are some of the reasons why they don't like it. You know, things like that. Or they'll put, when there's breakfast for lunch, you have carrots with pancakes, you know, because they have to supply a orange vegetable a certain number of times during the week. So it doesn't always match up. And when we did the research, they do their food from scratch. But when you do the research, you don't realize when you go down there and visit the plant and you see it, and then until it's into action, that they're going technically by the law because they're only using like 5 vegetables in every week because it's easier than keep trying to come up with something else. And what we do at the other levels, we actually spend a lot of time trying to make sure that the customer likes it, you know, and don't get bored and do, for instance, Taco Tuesday every Tuesday. So every Tuesday is something different. No matter if it's the next month, you can't say, well, I know it's tacos on Tuesday. It takes a lot of time and effort, and it seems like it's easy, but it takes some customer care in order for people to want to like the food. I hope that answered your question.
It did, and it was Taco Tuesday at our house tonight, but that's okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Newman.
I just want to make one comment, and I think it's evident from Mr. Kane's comments, the amount of passion and excitement that he puts into the work that he does. If he were to make black bean broccoli, it would be really good. Because
yes,
he would,
it would be.
He would take the time to really sort of work that through to get great flavor. But I think one of the things that I've witnessed that I think is incredibly invaluable to the system is that he is extraordinarily customer-centric. And so he's talking with kids all the time. How does this taste? Do you like this? Don't you like it? What can we do to improve on it? And I, having been in school cafeterias for a long time in my life, have never seen that much interface between a food services director and the students around flavor. So thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to 6.02 with the Facilities, Safety, and Security Annual Report. Dr. Newman.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to welcome Mr. Padilla. Mr. Padilla has put together a brief school board annual report, and in here he talks about the 4 different schools and some of the work that's happening with respect to the construction projects and the like. He's also talking about maintenance and custodial work, and I would happily turn it over to him for his presentation.
So, is it on? Yeah, okay. The version that you guys have in board docs is slightly different than what I have, so I send it to Marty so you'll have it later, the updated version. So we'll just start with the high school with the major fiscal year 17 projects and the summer projects that we're working on right now. We completed the high school HVAC rooftop unit for the auditoriums back in November. If you haven't been there lately, all the modulars are finally gone. So we have 16 new spaces that we gained by taking the rest of those parking lot modulars out of those parking lots right in front. So we haven't seen the front of the building since 2005. So if you drive by, you'll see a little bit of improvement. We're going to refurbish that parking lot. The PO has been issued, and we're just waiting on scheduling the vendor. We are refurbishing the weight room due to the smoke damage from the fire in the water fountain. So that's getting all new paint. We're going to do lighting and all new flooring, and then we'll put the new equipment in. And we actually got a donation of some new equipment that Julie Braven has been working on, so we picked it up today, and that'll be installed as well. The roof repairs are all complete. The vendor has certified everything, so the maintenance agreement is now in effect. So any leaks that we get, they'll be responsible for coming out and repairing those. And we couldn't find any leaks the other day when we had the big rain, so hoping it's lasting now. And then the final big project at Mason is the reconfiguration of the old print shop and an old computer lab into new high-C space. It's down in the lower level of the art wing, if you haven't been down there. So we're going to gain a lot of new space for the high-C lab to venture into next year. At Mary Ellen, we replaced all the sewer lines underneath theater rooms that had to rip up all that floor back in the fall, and also all that's done. All the flooring was done. In the theater room, we had to put all new flooring in there because we ripped it all out. If you haven't been to the front of the building, we had a vendor in town that donated shrubs. So those have all been planted. They planted them for us and watered them. And then we are refurbishing the blacktop playground right now that's being funded by daycare. So we expanded it slightly, and they're recoating it later this week, we hope, and working with the new principal on the lines and things like that she wants on it. And then we're also repairing and replacing the stair treads on the stage that are all broken if you go into TJ, we expanded the mulch playground back in the fall. And then we are issued the purchase order for to widen and replace all the curbs and sidewalks along Oak Street. And then we'll also be refurbishing the rear parking lot, the old parking lot, as well at the same time. We're just waiting on the vendor to schedule the dates for us. Mount Daniel construction demo prep is still underway. We're just waiting for the final for the permitting and the trailers, and then we'll be going with that. As far as staffing goes, we had maintenance had 2 retirements this year, one in January, one in June. One of those, the January retirement, that position has been filled, and we are still waiting to hire the second one that retired this in June 30th. Custodial, we had 1 retirement, and that's been filled, and we had 2 new positions that you guys approved, so thank you for that. And those have been filled as well, so all employees have started, so we're happy to get them all going. And then just recommendations, future business, just more the high school campus redevelopment project, hoping it passes all the work that everybody's done. And then the continued discussions on the TJ addition, if that happens or if that's necessary, and then just the current Mount Daniel project. All I have.
Any questions?
I just want to make sure that when you say the old on TJ, the old parking lot is where the dumpster sits in the corner?
The one that was there before the construction, so that I call that one the old one, and then the newer one is the one that's closest to Seton Avenue on the playground side. So when you
Okay, right, yes.
Yeah, the dumpster side is the old side.
It's the old side, that's
Correct,
all, yes, okay.
Mr. Reitinger?
Just one question, Savvy. I wanted to check on the camera situation at TJ, because I know we had some questions on the budget cycle last time about replacement of cameras, so I wanted to, especially with some of the challenges we've seen around there, to check on what the status of that is, and if there's a current need to continue to replace more cameras, or they're being replaced on a schedule.
Right now, everything's been replaced. I believe it was this past fiscal year. I'd have to look in the finance system to see for sure. But we did add 3 rooftop cameras to the new tower, the new addition, that catches a lot of areas that we weren't able to catch before. So the parking lot, the back parent drop-off loop, the playground, and then the interior kind of courtyard-ish area between the new building and the old. So that was done, and we funded that one. We've got a parent in town that keeps donating cameras, and he doesn't want to be named. You may know who it is, you may not. But so I come back to my office many days and find boxes of cameras. He knows what I want. He calls me up and asks. So I haven't had to buy any cameras in about a year and a half, except for that one at TJ. So one project at TJ. So we're in good shape. We're going to be replacing a lot of them this summer.
Mr. Castillo?
Mr. Reitinger asked one of my questions. With respect to the trailers, my understanding those were going to be used for storage. Where did the stuff that was in there, if there was stuff, go?
The ones at George Mason?
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of stuff in there. I mean, it was mostly junk. So we went through it, what we needed. With the expansion of the High C program into that newer space, a lot of that furniture that we had in there, we took, and that's what we're using to furnish those areas. And a few other things we just stored in other places around the building. But it was mostly empty, except for our renter was storing some of their stuff in there, and we pulled all that out. They were pretty empty.
And the weight room, did we get any insurance money with
We
that?
filed a claim with VML, our insurance carrier, for the charges that we've gotten so far, which was for the fire remediation work that they had to come in and they had to clean all the soot and everything. They cleaned the ductworks. And then after, through some exploration, they found it spread into another neighboring room, some of the smoke, so we had to clean all that out as well. So we filed that claim with the insurance carrier, waiting a decision on that. And then all the subsequent charges, so the new flooring, the lighting, the mats, everything that we're replacing, we're going to file that on the insurance as well. They told us we could file that as the project is moving along. But we don't know of the status of the claim yet.
And just last question, the issue with some smells in some of the George Mason classrooms, has that settled down as far as you know?
There's no smell in the summer because there's condensate going through the lines. That's what it was related to. The room, the one room in question that we've heard about, our maintenance department went and rerouted the lines. So that's been done. They're going to reroute one other line out in the hallway this summer. So you won't notice it until the winter when the drain lines dry out because there's no condensate from the air conditioners. So we're hoping we won't experience that again next year.
Well, thank you for all your hard work and for all you do, and keep up the good work. Keep holding things together.
Any other questions? Dr. Noonan?
Just to sort of pick up on Mr. Castillo's comment, just a thank you to Mr. Padilla for his incredible work. This week he sent me the most updated asset chart that we have with respect to George Mason High School in particular. And as I look at the end of useful life of many of the rooftop units, the roofing products, the access controls, and the like, there are an awful lot of systems that are being held together with, I won't say duct tape and baling wire, but they're definitely being held together with a lot of love, and Mr. Padilla is behind that, and I want to thank you for keeping those going for as long as possible, because if some of these were to go out, they're high-ticket items that we would just need to be prepared for. So thanks for your incredible work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abby. On to the agenda, and questions or anything about? So if someone would move the
Mr. Chair, I move that the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Reitinger. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And with that, I do want to acknowledge one of our now two guests in the audience, Davis, as the new assistant principal over at TJ. We want to, as a board, welcome you to Falls Church, and if you want to come up and say a few words, you're more than welcome to.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Davis. I'm eager to begin work as the new assistant principal at Thomas Jefferson Elementary, and I'm eager to work with you all as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We look forward to having you and getting to know you while doing your time here in Falls Church City. Thank you. Move on to business action information, and we will go 8.01. First readings of policies, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Noonan for an introduction before handing it over.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have a number of policies that are here for first reading. There were a couple additions at the last minute, and we appreciate your flexibility with that. So Tricia Minson has been very hard at work at these, and so I'll turn these over to Tricia for her comments.
Good evening. For first reading, we have, we'll start with policies CBA. This is qualifications and duties for the superintendent. It, along with CBB and CBD, is really just breaking out what had been our policy 3.5. We had one policy that covered the qualifications and duties of the superintendent's appointment, and the superintendent's contract, compensation, and benefits. So the VSBA model policies break that out into 3 separate policies. The only sentence that was not included in the 3 VSBA policies was the one in red that's been added to CBB that a board member has raised a question on, and I'm happy to address that. But as far as CBA, this is fairly straightforward of the qualifications and duties of a superintendent, pulled largely from the Virginia Constitution, the Code of Virginia, and the Virginia Administrative Code. Are there any questions on policy CBA?
Questions?
Policy CBB, as I just mentioned, there is that one sentence that's in red. It's the second full sentence of policy CBB for appointment and term of the superintendent. That language was taken directly from our policy 3.5, and Mr. Lawrence did raise that why would we want a affirmative vote of a majority of the quorum? That could be, as a quorum could be 4 members, so majority vote would be 3. Would we ever want a situation where 3 school board members could vote for a superintendent, knowing that you really want to have all school board members present there? There's no need to add that language in here. I spoke with Elizabeth Ewing at the Virginia School Board Association today, and she believes that that language was from an earlier iteration that was included in the Virginia Code of what at a minimum it needed to be there, but that no longer exists in the Virginia Code, so I would be happy to remove that if that's what the board would like.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yeah, I would either like to remove it, or frankly, for a position as important as superintendent, I would be even happy with saying it has to be a supermajority of 5, because I wouldn't even want to have a superintendent come in with a 4-3 vote. So this is first reading if people want to think about it, but, you know, it's the higher we do, which hopefully is something that lasts for a long time. 3 is, you know, obviously out of the question. To me, even a 4-3 vote would not be a very good signal. So I think it would be, you know, something that would warrant a supermajority.
Mr. Castillo?
Just a question for Ms. Minson. Are we allowed to, are there statutory boundaries for what we can and can't do on this?
I didn't see any of the statutes that are cited. 22.1, 58, 60, or 61 don't specify what that vote needs to be. If the board did want to go above and beyond and put supermajority, I don't know of anything in the code that would prevent us from doing that, but I can look into it between now and our next meeting.
And I would just say that while I would certainly hope that every superintendent hire would be a majority, I mean a unanimous vote, there may be times where that's not the case. And you know, at a certain point, you have to have a superintendent, so.
And one of the code provisions, actually the same one, policy CBB, addresses what you do in the instance that you don't have a superintendent, that the Virginia Board of Education then appoints a superintendent until the board can find someone suitable. So I guess in the alternative of getting a vote of the board, then a superintendent is imposed upon the division.
Reininger?
I think I'm like to agree with what Mr. Castillo just said. I also agree with Mr. Lawrence that we do want a unanimous or a supermajority in every case, but I think that's probably best a question of culture than it is a question of legal requirement. And so I'd suggest we inculcate a culture, but that we keep the requirement, what is required by code, because if push comes to shove, I'd rather have a 4-person majority of the board pick a superintendent than have a non-Falls Church official decide on who that is.
So how about removing, based on the noddings that I see across the board, I've removed that second sentence that's in red, which was language taken from our previous policy, and then it would just be the majority of the board that decides, depending upon who's present at the meeting, that the superintendent is voted on. Any other questions on policy CBB?
Well, sorry,
Mr.
could you say
Lawrence?
that again?
I'm proposing removing the language that's in red that was taken from our policy 3.5 that said the appointment could be by an affirmative vote of a majority of the quorum. I can look into whether there's any language that would limit us in adding supermajority, but what I'm hearing from the table is that that would be more matter of making sure that the board's able to appoint a superintendent even if it's not the supermajority.
Well, I guess the point is, then, are people happy with a superintendent being appointed by 3? Because if all we do is take out that language,
Then
you
that
could
would be
still
the
have a
default.
meeting of 4, and you could still have 3 vote in favor. So it's one thing to say, I don't want a supermajority, but taking this out doesn't change the fact that we could have a superintendent hired with a vote of 3, which I think is something, maybe you don't want to say we should mandate a number, but I think we should mandate a number that a superintendent cannot be hired by less than a majority of the full board. I mean, I think that's a floor we should draw, and just taking out that language doesn't change that.
Well, I would just say we have some neighboring jurisdictions across the Potomac River where there have been some, I think bizarre is the only word you can say, superintendent board issues where I think you might not have the ability of a board to get to a supermajority. So, I mean, I think sometimes you'd have to work with what
No,
you got.
I'm not talking about a supermajority. If we just take this out, you can still hire someone with 3. I'm saying that is unacceptable. We should at least make the language say it has to be a majority of the full board. That's my point. I understand your point about supermajority.
Well, and I could see you could have, I could posit a situation where all you'd need is 4 board members not to cooperate or show up and you'd be in irons.
Right, but that means we haven't really done the work needed to find the right superintendent for the board. I mean, by definition, you're saying you're happy, you would accept 3 people being the only people on a 7-member board voting for a superintendent.
Well, to Mr. Reidinger's point, I think it's hard to legislate civility and cooperation here, and certainly it's hard to future-proof things. And I would view having a superintendent imposed on us by the state board to be an unpleasant state of affairs. So I would leave it to the good judgment and goodwill of the future boards and have them work as hard as they can, because they know what they'll know what they need to do. And
Okay, so you're willing to accept 3 people on a 7-member board voting to hire a new
I
superintendent?
can see a situation where that might be the best you could do.
I guess I'm more optimistic about Falls Church. I just don't see that as being acceptable.
Next policy is CBD. That's a superintendent's contract compensation and benefits that aligns closely with the Virginia Code provisions. Any questions about that policy? Next is policy CBG. That's evaluation of the superintendent. It would replace our policy 3.7, and it very closely aligns with what we had the language that we had in our policy.
Questions?
The next 3 policies all relate to tobacco use by students, staff, visitors, and electronic cigarettes. I apologize that I got these to you yesterday. I do appreciate the questions and feedback that I received today. One of the questions was if electronic cigarettes are referenced in the school and staff policy and in the use on school premises policy, why does it need to be a separate policy? We looked into that, and the Virginia Code actually requires that the school board adopt a policy. It doesn't say anything that it could be adopted within another policy, and I spoke with Elizabeth Ewing at the VSBA, and she said they wanted to cover it so that if anyone in looking at the index or the code itself, if they wouldn't think to look under another area, they could see it as a standalone provision. There's also a slight different language under the electronic cigarettes in the KGC and GBEC, in that students are prohibited from possessing electronic cigarettes, whereas other individuals on school campus can possess them, they just can't use electronic cigarettes. So with that in mind, the other thing I wanted to point out is policy KGC is similar, but a little bit different than GBC. One has to do with the use of tobacco by staff and students. The other one has to do with the use of tobacco and electronic cigarettes on school premises. I did add language into both of those from our policies. So I thought ours were good ones, and ours weren't very out of date. They were just a few years out of date. The Virginia School Board model policies provide in both those policies that the school board can direct a superintendent to issue regulations designating certain area of school grounds outside buildings as smoking areas. That's something that this board had not done in the past. So I did indicate that language in the two policies and crossed it out in red, showing that it's an option if you all wanted to add that back in. But I went ahead and removed it and struck through it in the event you wanted to be consistent with what our earlier policies had been. So GBC, taking that one first, that would also correspond with JFCH. That would allow it to be both in the personnel policies and the student policies. I added in language that we had included in our policies that I thought was good to clarify that not just can tobacco and any type of tobacco product be not used by students or staff on our school property, but when students and staff are representing our schools as clubs, teams, or other organizations, they should not be using tobacco products. We also added that the exterior of the building tobacco could not be used there. So any questions on GBEC? Yes, Ms. Gill.
I had to look this up because I'm like, does this include vaping? I'm not really sure what vaping is, so I'm actually reading, I just typed in what is vaping. Just to make clear, is this?
Vaping is electronic cigarettes.
Okay, it's like, would it be worthwhile to put that in there, say, which includes vaping or inhalation of vapors, so to make it clear that it's not, because, so I'm reading this, my understanding is that vaping does not use tobacco?
It sometimes does, sometimes doesn't. That was why electronic cigarettes was its own
Technicality,
thing.
well, I'm vaping and it doesn't have any tobacco, so I'm okay, right? And we're like, no, it's a cigarette. It's like, well, it's not a cigarette because I'm not smoking. I'm vaping. So I didn't know if that was something we needed to include.
That's a good question. I think that was why electronic cigarettes was its own separate policy.
Right.
So I wonder if we want to add
I just want to clarify
use of
that so
electronic
that-
cigarettes, which includes vaping. And I'll Google vaping and make sure that I know exactly what it is. I believe vaping is electronic cigarettes, even though it can look different.
Yeah, quitsmoking.org is a nice write-up of what is vaping. But because it's a tobacco-free version of a traditional cigarette. So I didn't, anyway, just to cover our bases, if we wanted to make clear that this does for, without a doubt include vaping and tobacco-based products.
I think that's a good idea.
Steele?
I think Ms. Gill has put her finger on a huge issue of how do we future-proof this stuff, because, everybody from the FDA to our school board has been kind of caught by this, and is there a definition of electronic cigarette? What is an electronic cigarette? It seems to me, again, Ms. Gill, I think was spot on, that we're really worried more about nicotine. I was thinking, well, what about gum? What about patches? What about all these nicotine-containing substances? And, I guess if we're going to try to nail this, we should probably we may need a bigger net and a wider net, bigger boat and a wider net.
The good thing about adopting the VSBA model policies is even if the Virginia legislature is a little bit behind, once they have a law passed or a regulation passed, that then gets updated in the VSBA model policies, and they give us a way to update our policies quickly and easily. So I know that we don't have a policy on electronic cigarettes, but the VSBA has had one for at least 2 years, and that's based on the Virginia Code provision that came out in 2014, 22.1, 79.5, requiring school boards to have a policy regarding electronic cigarettes. So we're getting there, and then hopefully once we get all the policies up to date, even if the Virginia General Assembly is a little bit behind, once they come up with a law, I guess that would be the way we technology-proof these policies, and that we can update them quickly and stay in compliance with the law.
I look forward to the day when Virginia is at the forefront of nicotine and tobacco regulation.
Touche.
Any other questions?
And moving on to then policy KGC, that's the use of tobacco and electronic cigarettes on school property. That's similar, but slightly different in that it regulates the use of tobacco by visitors to buildings and non-staff and non-students. Questions on that policy? And the last policy for first reading tonight is policy GBECA, the electronic cigarettes.
Sorry, Ms. Vincent, you went a little fast there. Are you saying the KGC means we have no smoking, basically there's no smoking by anybody on our school premises?
That's correct, yes.
Staff, maintenance, students, support staff, anybody?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It also gives requirements for the principal to post no smoking signs.
Yeah, thanks.
Mr. Castillo?
Just, so, I'm just jumping back and forth. So,
Sure.
the tobacco-free school has definition of school property and other things, whereas the electronic cigarettes is a one-sentence statement. And so I guess, is there a resulting gap? Why wouldn't you just redline and strike out tobacco from GBEC and replace electronic cigarettes throughout? It seems like the electronic cigarettes would be less comprehensive, but
Well, electronic cigarettes are referenced at the last line of, I didn't put line numbers on these. I apologize. The second page of GBEC, the last line under electronic cigarettes, makes clear that students are prohibited from possessing electronic cigarettes, and other persons can't use them. So I guess the first sentence of the policy that talks about smoking, chewing, or use of tobacco products, including electronic cigarettes, I guess that gets to the point of not all electronic cigarettes have tobacco.
do we have a definition of electronic cigarettes somewhere?
No, I just looked to see if there is one in the Virginia Code, and I don't see one, but I think it would make sense to add, if not a definition of electronic cigarettes, then perhaps a parenthetical that says including vaping, and perhaps there are other ways of smoking electronic cigarettes or other vapor type. I don't know, but I can do some research on this and see what other language it might make sense to add for all three of these. Thank you for letting me continue my education. Always learning. Anything else on these first policies?
Thank you very much, Ms. Benson. I will motion.
First reading? Oh, okay. Mr. Chair, I move that the school board approve first reading of the policy CBA, qualifications and duties of the superintendent, policy CBB, appointment and term of the superintendent, policy CBD, superintendent's contract compensation and benefits, policy CBG, evaluation of the superintendent, policy KGC, use of tobacco and electronic cigarettes on school premises, policy GBECA, electronic cigarettes, and policy GBEC, tobacco-free school for staff and students.
Much there, second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Thank you very much. Move on to policies on second reading.
The policies for second reading are policy CA, which is, would replace policy 3.1, purpose and organization, with administration goals. There were no changes from the board other than the initial caps that are demonstrated in red, and the policy header in red from the previous version. If here are no questions, policy GAH was revised.
Mr.
I'm
Castillo?
sorry. I gotta say, 3.1 seems kind of old and threadbare, and I'd like to see, it would be nice, and I don't know if anyone agrees, if there were a little more highlighting of the superintendent's role as an educational leader. That almost seems buried in number 3. I mean, I suppose it hits all the spots, but it's a strikingly uninspiring description of what the superintendent's supposed to be doing.
I think
I don't disagree at all with what Mr. Castillo said. That said, you know, the purpose of the exercise is essentially to stick with what the VSBA does so that we don't have to go through and superintend them each time, the policies every time there's a change. I'd also suggest that I think it goes back to the cultural point I raised before, I think we take our inspiration and our view of what the superintendent should do, not from reading what our policies say, but from how we act. And so I would, while I don't feel hard over on this issue one way or the other, I would generally stick with the language from VSBA to avoid unnecessary work unless there were a clear reason not to do so. And I feel relatively comfortable in the commitment of the board and the commitment of the superintendent to be a bit more inspirational than 4 bullet points in a dry policy. Thank you.
And the policy that we just went through on first reading CBA has 2 pages of the major duties of the superintendent, and there's a whole lot of work in there. So I think taking those together, taking the VSBA model policies together, there's no lack of what the superintendent's roles are. Knowing that we did cut down policy 3.1 here, there are parts of 3.1 that are incorporated in other policies that are going to be brought forward. One of them, for example, is the role of the superintendent in the budget process. That will be in policy that's coming up, CBG, that is hopefully one that we can present at the next school board meeting. So not all of that is going away, but we're just doing it to follow the VSBA model policies. Helps on that point.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Anything else on CA? This is Mr. Reidinger's favorite policy, GAH, School Employee Conflict of Interest. This was amended just to reflect a change in House Bill 1854 from the Virginia General Assembly. No changes from the last reading at the last school board meeting.
Questions?
I have to say it. God, that's a good policy.
God. God. And then the last one is not a policy, but the proposal to remove policy 3.19, the review of administrative decisions.
Questions?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Castillo.
Just a quick question. Are super grants at all at odds with GAH, or would we, it talks about awards of meritorious or exceptional services, but it seems as if there's like a personal recognition for performance, but is a super grant going to fit in that section D? It says exceptional service.
I believe, based on my understanding of the super grants, is as long as the Ed Foundation is a 501c3, which I understand they are, that would, GA would not prevent an employee from accepting a super grant.
Well, it says meritorious or exceptional services performed by the teacher and made by the exempt organization. So I would say a super grant would meet the second, but would it meet the first? Dr.
Yeah, my interpretation of this policy is that it wouldn't meet the first, and the reason that it wouldn't is those super grants are awarded based on what teachers are going to do with students, as opposed to the merit of the teacher. It's really on the merit of the idea and how it's going to support instructional programming in our schools.
So I guess so are super grants subject to the Conflict of Interest Act then? Do they? I'm just not, if there's supposed to be a safe harbor in here under D, I don't think it works.
Right, as Lisa's saying,
It's not a gift to the teacher per se, it's for professional development for the growth of instruction. Most of the things, it's either materials or resources for instruction or to help them grow as educators, to be better for our students. All of the super grants.
And is a check made out to them individually?
No.
Oh, okay. Well then, I think
All of the, whether it's resources or professional development goes to the school through the school division accounts.
okay.
Nothing's-
Sorry for that rabbit hole trip.
I will entertain a motion, please.
School board approve and adopt second reading of policies GA, school employees' conflict of interest, CA, administration goals, and remove policy.
The second.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Next will be the approval of bus lease addendum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What we're asking for is, this evening, is to continue leasing 2 Thomas school buses. There was a question prior to the meeting from one member asking about the amount. These are 2 5-year leases, or 1 5-year lease for 2 products, and at the end, they're lease-to-own products. So the equivalent over 5 years at $46,226.95 is in the neighborhood of about $100,000 per bus, which is roughly the cost of what a school bus would be. By leasing it, it allows us to, in the end, spread our risk, not impact cash flow the way that the big purchase would. And we do pay a small interest, not a small interest rate, we pay about 3.5% interest on these leases. So we're requesting this evening that you approve the leasing of the 2 school buses, the 2 additional school buses.
Any questions?
Dr. Juna, did you say these are a continuation? Do we already have these in place, or?
No, sir, these are
are new.
2 new school buses.
Okay.
Excuse me for misspeaking.
But just to be clear, these are buses that were approved, or the money for them was approved in the budget.
Yes,
last year.
that's
Thank you.
correct.
Questions? I will entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I move that the school board approve entering into a master installment purchase agreement with Mercedes-Benz Financial Services USA LLC for the purpose of purchasing via a financial contract the equipment listed on the attachment. The cost shall not exceed $215,652.
Second. I will, in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. 8.05 is the First Amendment to Superintendent's Contract, and we will need to get approval for a member to take part remotely, for Ms. Ward to take part in this. It does need to be a unanimous consent of the board for this. So I ask if we can participate remotely.
Mr. Chair, I move that we allow Margaret Ward to participate remotely in this vote.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Point, and I'm going to put you on speaker. All right. If, I guess, Ms. Minton, will you be taking the lead? Talk about this if we need to have any questions or...
Sure, if there are any questions about
Yes.
the addendum, or I'm sorry, the First Amendment, yes.
Does any board member have any questions or anything before we move on? Mr. Lawrence?
I think just for the public, it would be nice to explain why we're doing an amendment to a contract that's, barely has the ink dry.
Can I let Mr. Reitinger take that on?
Sure. So, thank you, Mr. Lawrence. The intention was when hiring Dr. Noonan to bring him on board for a 4-year contract, but due to the fact that he was coming on board at the end of a school fiscal year, and basically under the Virginia Code, school board superintendent contracts have to run from July 1 to June 30th. And so we were only able to offer what amounted to a 3-year and 1.5 month contract. So our intention was on hiring to extend the contract to 4 years after the expiration of the first month and a half of the contract, so the superintendent would have a 4-year contract. So the purpose of this change is to give the superintendent a 4-year contract, which would expire 4 years from June 30th of 2017, which would be June 30th of 2021. And other than that, the amendment involves no other changes in the contract. It's merely an extension of 1 year with no changes in compensation or other provisions, but just extending the term of the contract as is required by Virginia Code.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Any other questions? If not, I will entertain a motion. Just
There's 2 motions. First, there needs to be a vote on 8.04, the first amendment to the contract. I had neglected to realize that you needed to give 30 days advance notice when a superintendent's contract is going to be renegotiated, and that 30-day notice period can be waived with the vote of the entirety of the board.
Mr. Chair, I move that the school board proceed to a vote on a negotiated superintendent's contract without the 30 days advance notice required by Virginia Code 22.1-60C as allowed by that section.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Akuma.
Roll call. Mr. Ankuma?
Aye.
Mr. Castillo? Ms. Gill?
Aye.
Mr. Lawrence? Yes. Mr. Reitinger?
Yes.
Ms. Ward?
Ms. Ward?
Yes. Mr. Webb?
Yes. Thank you. And then on for 8.05, if I get that.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the school board authorize the chair to sign the agreed-upon First Amendment to the superintendent's contract for a period from July 11, 2017 to June 30th, 2021.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Goodell.
Mr. Ankuma?
Aye.
Mr. Castillo? Ms. Gill?
Aye.
Mr. Lawrence? Mr. Reitinger?
Yes.
Ms. Ward?
Ms. Ward?
And Mr. Webb?
Yes. Thank you very much. All right. And well, to 8.06, the appointment of the school board clerk. I am very happy to be doing this. Ms. Goodell has done a great job of being helpful, I think, to every one of us in some way, shape, or form, keeping us in line, keeping us informed of what's going on, trying to, from time to time, herd us together for trying to organize meetings, and we definitely appreciate that of what she has been doing for us for the last few years, but definitely for a number of years with many boards before us. So I am very happy about this and want to now see if I can entertain a motion.
Question.
Ankuma.
Is there any legal reason why the term is so short?
It has to be, if I'm correct, it has to be done each new.
With
January 1st of each year, the school board is tasked with appointing a clerk and deputy clerk.
Okay. Yeah. In that case, motion. Mr. Chair, I move that the school board appoint Martha Goodell, clerk of the school board, for a term effective July 1, 2017, and ending December 31, 2017.
Second? Second.
Did you say January 1, 2017?
July.
July 1, 20.
July 1.
No, I think you said January till 2017.
I'm sorry, July 1, 2017, and ending December 31, 2017.
Yes. Correct. Okay. Does this need to be a roll call? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Marty.
Madam Clerk. For future agenda items, let's see if anyone has any for future. Mr. Lawrence?
Well, two things I asked for. Could we start keeping a list? And also, I still would like to have an evaluation of how the changing bell schedule between MEH and GM worked. Did the MEH kids benefit? Because that was the whole point of doing it.
Ms. Gill?
I want to follow up on the parents who had requested if their kids could start school early, beginning kindergarten maybe 6 weeks before their birthday is maybe 6 weeks, up to 6 weeks after the cutoff date. If we could revisit that, I think we talked about maybe coming up with some sort of rubric for evaluating those requests and so a consistent response.
Yeah, because we had one request that was for this coming year, and then Dr. Schiller found a place locally that can do the assessments for very cheap, and then we were going to have a work session, and that just sort of disappeared when Bob Schiller left. So I mean, one family isn't until next year, but one is for this September.
We can certainly follow up.
Okay. If you all would, I would appreciate that. Anything else? Mr. Reitinger?
I just, well, it was a lightly attended forum at 6:30. We had consensus among the attending members that two of the sessions for future work sessions would be the superintendent's evaluation regime and the triennial plan and strategic plan for the schools. So I assume, even though it was perhaps we were lacking a quorum of school board members, that those are topics that are probably generally thought to be appropriate for a work session. Thank you.
Anything else?
Long discussed and probably forgotten topic, but my daughter just brought it up that we used to have these exchange programs with other students from other countries. And those were sort of put on hold because of some issue, and we had the Chilean exchange program, we had I think there was something in France and others. Is that coming back? Have we gotten some new arrangement with that, or what's the latest on that? Because I've heard that the Chilean trip is back, but I'm hearing it from the kids. So
At this point, there are no exchange trips planned.
okay. What's the status on any of that?
Well, that was something that Tom Horn was handling when he was here, so I'm not sure that any of us have focused on that, so I will get with Matt Hills and figure out where we're going to move, or if we're going to move in that direction.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Casillo?
Just a question. I know it's early, but I think last year we worked with budget and finance a little earlier to get the ball rolling on the budget. Are we thinking about trying to continue moving the beginnings of the budget process out farther? I know that's difficult, but it'll be here before we know it.
I think definitely that's something that we want to continue to do, and I'm quite sure that the Vice Mayor and Council Member Oliver would definitely want to process, but I believe next time I speak with them, I'll just bring it up, and hopefully we can get that ball rolling sooner than later, so we can try to iron out anything in advance, guidance or those things as they do of trying to formulate. Yep, go ahead.
Just one more thing. When will we be getting student achievement information, and when will we be able to review that in a work session?
I'll work with, thanks for the question. I'll work with Ms. High on that. Previously, I've shared it with past boards in the early fall when those have been aggregated and disaggregated to give a full picture of the student achievement of the division. However, we are already looking at it to help drive programmatic decision-making and the like, but we can, why don't we get together and we'll figure out what a good time is for that. We're continuing to build, just for the interest of the board, we're continuing to build a full schedule of what's going to happen in work sessions, what's going to happen in regular meetings throughout the summer. So hopefully by the end of the summer, we'll be able to present you with at least some sense of what's coming up in each of the months moving forward with respect to presentations and information sharing.
If not, we will move on to board and student liaison comments. Superintendent's report, I'm sorry. Didn't try to skip you there.
It's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And first and foremost, I just want to say thanks to the board for your action tonight. While it's the first amendment to a contract after 8 weeks, I think it might be the shortest tenure before an amendment in the history of Virginia. But I want to thank you very much for your continued confidence in me moving forward for the next 4 years, and I hope it's the first of many amendments to come. So thanks, and congratulations to Ms. Goodell for her appointment to the board as the clerk, and we're very excited to formally make her in a position that I think she's been acting in for a very long time. A couple of updates, not too many. First is from Jesse Thackeray. Just a reminder to the board that summer school started yesterday. All our little guys started showing up, little guys and girls, and it was really a lot of fun to get the summer school rolling there. At Mount Daniel, summer school and daycare also started, and they are running at Thomas Jefferson, as many of you know, this year. The school office is on the Seton Lane side of the school, so if there's anyone out there who is interested in coming to talk with the Mount Daniel team, they are holding offices on the Seton Lane side of the building with the letters MD on the window. It'd be hard to miss, I hope. We continue, as Mr. Padilla mentioned earlier this evening, to work with the construction companies, with Grunley and with Arcadis and with Samaha on the construction project over at Mount Daniel. We continue to wait for some final pieces to the puzzle necessary to get the site plan approved, and as soon as that site plan is approved, it will be the trigger point for everything to move forward, including the new trailer, putting the trailers in, and demolition at Mount Daniel. We hope that will happen sometime within the next 2 weeks. We still continue to be in the window for early fall opening in 2018. At Thomas Jefferson, summer school and daycare are up and running also, very busy. The parking lot's full. If you go by, because Mount Daniel, as I just mentioned, is holding their summer programs at Thomas Jefferson. We'd like to welcome Valerie Hardy as the new principal at Mary Ellen Henderson. She started earlier this week and has already hit the ground running and is doing a great job. She actually today spent the day with Ms. High, and she, along with Ms. High and some members of the staff, interviewed assistant principals. And once that assistant principal is hired, we will be completely staffed from an administrative perspective across the division, and I'm excited for that to happen. This is the third year that summer school has a career theme at Mary Ellen Henderson. Students are exploring a variety of different careers, and as they do that, they're using the IB Learner Profile to think about what skills are needed and necessary for those respective careers. As Mr. Padilla mentioned earlier, if you drive by George Mason High School, you'll notice that the trailers that were out front are completely gone. We reclaimed 16 parking spaces out there, and I want to publicly thank the facilities team for making that happen. It was not an easy task to get rid of those, but it is nice to see that there's a high school sitting back there off of Leesburg Pike. On July 10th, for those of you that were at Lou Olam's 100th birthday party this past Saturday, you know that it was proclaimed Lou Olam Day here in the City of Falls Church. We were excited to attend that birthday party with Mr. Olam, who is known as the father of International Baccalaureate here in the City of Falls Church. And he was as spry as ever on Saturday, and it was really great to spend some time with him. Our custodial staff, as you know, does team cleaning, and the way that they team clean is they go from building to building throughout the summer in those teams, and they're currently at Mary Ellen Henderson, clearing out classrooms, stripping and waxing the floors and buffing them out. I had a chance yesterday to walk the second floor, and I wouldn't suggest it, but if you wanted to, you could actually eat off the floor. They're so clean. And a reminder to the board and to the community that there is a community meeting on the school bond referendum next Wednesday, July 19th at 7:30 p.m. here at City Hall. And with that, Mr. Chair, that is my superintendent report for this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the superintendent? If not, we'll move on down to board and student liaison comments. Start down the end with Mr. Nkuma.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's been a rather slow summer. The last, I had Speak, Band Boosters, and Falls Church Elementary PTA. I think there's a Speak meeting that had a conflict with one of our school board meetings, so I wasn't able to attend the last one, but I did attend the Band Boosters meeting from after they came back from the New York trip, which was at the Carnegie Hall. Obviously did a great job. The kids, we're very proud of the kids, and we also saw them at RG's that Sunday. And then, but that's about the only report I have on my liaison assignments. Like I said, Speak and Falls Church Elementary PT. I can never get that word right. I've been pretty quiet with that. So,
Mr. Reiniger?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two brief comments. One, Mr. Nkuma and I have been continuing to attend the Economic Development Working Group meetings, as has Dr. Noonan. No final reports to report on yet. I think that might have been reported out at the City Council meeting on Monday, but I was not present at that. But the work is going forward. The contractor, the consultant, has done a lot of work on valuation of the land and different proposals and how more value could be had from the land if there are certain types of construction that are done. For example, the city will get more value if it sells 10 acres or if it ground leases 10 acres if the parking is above ground rather than underground. So there's a whole formula that they're working through that will provide a reasonably good estimate, and they've already given a strong estimate in terms of what the value from the land ought to be, and that will be coming over the course of the summer and continuing as we go forward. The other thing I wanted to mention was I was with Dr. Noonan at Mr. Olam's birthday party on Saturday, and one of the really amazing things that was done at the birthday party was a video was shown that was prepared by all of the Falls Church City schools on the value of the IB program. So it had a number of students and principals and administrators. I think if it's not a problem to post that, I would think that that would be something we should make more publicly available, because we do get questions on the IB program. I'm not trying to convince people one way or the other, but I think it was a really good explanation from kids and teachers about the purpose behind the program. So if that can be made publicly available and it would not violate any copyright or Mr. Olam's privacy, it would be a nice thing to be able to, for example, put on the Falls Church webpage as a means of explaining at its best what the IB program is all about. Thank you.
Very much. Go on down to Mr. Lawrence and work back this way.
I don't have my notes with me, but I attended the last meeting of the foundation before their summer break. Honestly, to staff and teachers, I've said this before, put in your grant requests. They have a lot of money, and they are looking for people who come up with creative ideas and they want to fund. So please, think about it, whether it's trout and lettuce or something else, but think big. Don't think in terms of $200, $300, $500, $5,000. Think big, 5 figures, and they are looking for good ideas.
I attended the last peak meeting of the year at Clarendon's. I did not stay very long so they could enjoy themselves without a school board member present. They did have some questions about TJ and what we're doing about overcrowding there, so I said I would just bring that back. And then health and wellness, after being the least, I think, active committee, is now, I think, fully staffed with, I think we have a full 11 people on it now, so looking forward to an active committee next year.
Mr. Castillo?
I would just echo what Mr. Lawrence said about grant proposals, especially in the humanities, where there seems to be a new funding source that could open up some possibilities there. I attended graduation, which was a great affair, 194 graduates, and our Constitution Hall, as always, was great. They were great hosts and also very efficient in preparing for the next graduation coming in after us. And it was a really great event. And then all-night graduation is also a huge event that goes on literally all night. I was a dealer at the blackjack table from 11:30 at night to 2:30 in the morning, and it was just a great atmosphere, and so much volunteer time goes into making that possible. And many families, parents without graduating seniors participate, and it's really a remarkable effort. And Jill Martin did a great job organizing, spearheading, and volunteer attendance. I was surprised to find out that the IB results for the diploma candidates have already come in. And so it sounds like things, at least one student made it, which was good. And so it sounds like it was a good year for the IB.
Just briefly, mine also was at graduation, and it was a great time to celebrate all the accomplishments of our students. And as Mr. Castillo said, Constitution Hall does a great job of getting you in and getting you out real quick because of their tight schedule. And this year, probably even tighter with some, I think, work they were doing down there of getting folks in and out. But it's a great celebration to see our students coming across the stage and reaching up, and having 194 students receiving their diplomas was just a lot of fun of being able to take part in that celebration. With regards to Mr. Olom, I had a prior engagement, so I was unable to attend his birthday party, but saw plenty of pictures from looks like all of Falls Church showed up to celebrate Mr. Olom's 100th birthday. I saw a lot of red hats with 100 on it, pictures. Mr. Olom, when I first got involved in the community with running for city council at the time, he was one of the first people that I met going with. Then another great city leader, Ed Strait, made a point to say you need to go over and sit down and talk with Lou Olom before making that decision. And he's a wealth of knowledge about our community, wealth of knowledge about, in particular, our schools, and definitely he will educate you about the importance of the IB program and why has been such a strong advocate of it. And it's great that he is still here and sharing with our community and our students about that importance of that particular program. And that would be it for me. So, any other comments before the good of the order? I will go ahead and approve the minutes for December 13th, 2016. Can we do them all together? Okay. The minutes for December 20th, 2016, and the minutes for January 3rd, 2017. If I can, consent to approve. Without objection, so ordered. the reading materials, and that's it. So we stand adjourned for the evening.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Nkuma?
question.
Yes,
On
sir.
the last report, is that something we already commented about? Special education?
I believe they will
Yeah.
they're going to be coming.
Yeah, Mr. Nkuma, thank you for the question. The author of that report was Dr. Cox. She was contracted by Dr. Schiller to come and do an audit of the special education programs here, and she'll be attending our work session next week to present the findings. So this was a read ahead.
This is a read ahead.
This is a read
Okay,
ahead for you because it's a rather thick document.
Right, thank you.
And with that, we'll stand adjourned for the evening.